All right. So in this training, we're going to go over using third-party stories, how to use other sellers' experiences to build trust, break down walls, open us prospects. So this is one of the more underused tools on a call that will help you really open up sellers and get them talking about how they're feeling, get them talking about what it would mean for them to sell, and really dive deeper into those impact questions and into motivation. So what I find is that the best reps, the best salespeople, they use third-party stories in order to consistently close more deals. So this is, showing someone that we've dealt with a similar situation. We have people who have gone through what they've gone through, and in addition to that, it helps open them up. And gets them kind of sharing what it would really mean to be able to sell the property. So why they work. So basically, people don't want to be the first to do something. A story about someone just like them removes that fear. So a lot of people just resist being sold to, but they don't resist the story. So when you let's go over this removes resistance. So it's not you pushing them to sell, right? It's a story about someone else who was in that same spot and came out of the other side and shares how they felt about their situation, how they felt about getting that monkey off their back. It also builds instant trust. It's proof that you've helped real people in real situations. It makes you sound credible without sounding like a pitch. It's not just like a, hey, trust me, I've done this before. Because obviously, if you say that, they're not going to take it the same way and they're not going to trust you. And then it also just opens the door. A well-placed story gives a seller permission to share their own situation. It normalizes what they're going through. So, uh, you'll find that as you get better with these third-party stories, you could use them in any situation. So let's talk through what the third-party story formula actually looks like. So it's basically the same three-part structure. So I want you to learn it and then make it your own. Right? This shouldn't be just a recited line of just like sound robotic. It should sound like you actually knew this person, you helped them deal with the situation. So the first thing you want to do is you want to mirror the situation. So you want to mention a past seller who is in a similar situation to this prospect. So it might sound something like, "Hey, I actually recently worked with someone who was also dealing with the property that they had inherited, and for them it was just tough because one, it was a property they weren't expecting to take on, and two, there were a number of repairs that they were able or that they weren't able to afford, and it was really causing them a lot of stress and anxiety and that's what they were going through. I'm curious, like for you, how are you holding up, or what are you going through, right? So it mirrors your situation. Number two, you're going to name the emotion. You're going to share how that seller felt, the stress, the relief, the weight of it, whatever it may be. So I might say, hey, they were overwhelmed between the taxes, the maintenance costs, the tenants. It was really consuming their life. And then lastly, you're going to bridge to them. So you're going to connect it back with a question that invites the prospect to open up. So once they sold, they said it was like a weight off their shoulders. How are you feeling about your situation? Or what would it mean to you to be able to get this off your plate? Now that's future, right? Like once they sold, this is how they felt. How would you feel? You can also do it in the current state. Be like, the between the taxes, the maintenance costs, the tenants, it was consuming their life. And I know they were talking about how they felt during all this, and it was just really stress inducing. They actually someone had a slight heart attack and they were just struggling with it. So I'm curious, how are you holding up? So you can use it to get their current state, but you can also use it to get their future state and how they would feel once they're able to move past that. Now, what you want to do is you want to build a story bank. So you want to have one story for each common situation and have it ready, rehearsed, practiced before the call. So, there are a number of situations that we come across: financial hardship, divorce, foreclosure, tired landlord, inherited, retirement, life change. For each one of these, you want to be able to share a story with someone as you're talking to them. So someone says, "Yeah, I'm actually getting a divorce." You kind of dig into things, how you're holding up, blah, blah, blah. And then a story might be, yeah, I actually worked with someone, I think it was 2 months ago, where they were going through a divorce, really contentious, just not very stressful for him. And one of the things that he had to do was get the property sold, and this was kind of the last thing holding him back. And I still check in every now and then with him, and he had told me that once he was able to get the property sold, it just took so much off his plate, and he felt just so much better. And It's something that for him, it made a lot of sense to go this route in terms of selling quickly. So I'm curious, obviously that was for him. What would it mean to you to be able to sell quickly? So you want to be able to pull these stories out just in the flow of the conversation, and you'll find that it gets sellers to open up much more than if you were to ask them of like, hey, what would this mean to sell? So here's when and how to deploy a story. So here's when to use it. The seller is being short or guarded early in the call. You hear a breadcrumb that matches a story that you know. The good news is you'll always have a story, right? Because we'll rehearse these stories, we'll know them. If they give a surface level answer, you can use it here as well. I just want to sell. So what I'll say is if I ask, hey, what has you thinking? They were like, I just want to sell. Be like, gotcha. Okay. And then they're just not giving you a lot. Be like, okay, yeah, no, I mean, I talk to people all the time, and a lot of them say, I just want to sell. Most people have a specific reason, right? Sometimes it's, hey, I'm looking to move out of the state, or looking to do this or that. I'm just curious, like, why would you sell if you were to? And then we have after urgency. Basically, you'll see in the script, after urgency is the same thing as during motivation. So that's where we're going to dig for a lot of this. And then we also do this, let's see when to use it, on the offer call recap to reinforce why selling makes sense. I wouldn't focus as much here. Basically, when you deploy a story is in the conversation. You could use it at any point. If you want to extract more information or you want to say like this person felt X, how would you feel? Like you can use a third party story. So how do you deliver it? You're going to keep it short. It's not a 5 minute monologue about someone and what it meant to them or what it meant for them to sell. It's like a 2 to 3 sentence max. And you could do multiple of these during the conversations. You could talk about this person, that person. You could talk about, I was able to help someone uh, move out of the property, and they actually called me crying and said how grateful they were. Like, what would it mean to you to sell, right? You can use it when you're asking about roadblocks of saying like, hey, you know I worked with someone else and they said they needed to remove a boat from the property. I was just wondering if there was anything like that for you. And you want to make it, the most important part about this is, one, it feels like you're just telling a real story about someone, and you will once you have more experience, but you want to be able to pull this at any time. So you want to make it feel like a real person, not just a script like, oh yeah, I talked to this person, I talked to John recently who said that he was struggling with foreclosure and we helped him and he was very happy. Right? You want to make it feel like it's an actual story. You can use a name. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. You want to focus on the emotion. That's what we're looking to get out of them. So you want to focus on how he felt to either, how he felt having this problem on his hands or how he felt being able to get this problem off of his hands. And then you always bridge to that question. You're not just telling a story to tell a story. It's not story time. You're using it to then ask their perspective or how they're feeling. So it always bridges to them. And then you want to match the story to their situation. You don't want to force it. So you don't want it to be like she's a single mom, she's 37, she just got divorced. You don't be like, oh, I was talking to a single mom who's 37 who just got divorced. Keep it relatively in the same realm, but it doesn't need to match like specifically to them. Be like, oh, I was actually speaking to someone who had gone through something similar recently, and they mentioned they felt X, Y, and Z while this was going on, and super stressed out. How are you holding up? So here's how you drill this out. So what I want you to do is I want you to build three stories three stories this week or in general. I want you to know them cold. Like if I ask you, like, give me a third party story for this, I want you to be able to just drop it in naturally and drop it in naturally and have it be pretty short. So, 20 seconds or so. Seconds, I'm not super worried about, but just have it be natural, tell the story, and then ask a question. So the scenario would be, yeah, I inherited this place from my mom. I don't really know what I want to do with it yet. So write out the third party story, mirror their situation, name the emotion, and then bridge it with a question. And then practice delivering this over and over and over. Deliver it out loud without reading it. Time yourself. Shouldn't take more than 20, 25 seconds. Don't ramble and don't tell a 2 minute story. And then lastly, what you'll do is, you have a partner, myself, whoever it may be, that plays the seller. You respond naturally with the story, then transition into that impact question and make it flow. So, for example, the scenarios, yeah, I inherited this place from my mom. I don't really know what I want to do with it yet. Be like, yeah, no, totally understand. I actually just worked with someone 2 weeks ago who, similar situation, they had inherited it from their grandfather. And they weren't sure what they were going to do, if they were going to list it, if they were going to keep it, if they were going to sell it. And ultimately, they decided that they wanted to sell it because it was just an easier process. They didn't want to be a landlord. And they decided that it was easier just to, sell it, kind of use that as a springboard for some of the things that they were looking to do. So with that being said, I'm curious, like, how are you thinking about which direction you want to go with it? Something like that. And then we'll drill out different things. So whether it's foreclosure, divorce, no motivation, there's a number of different drills that you can do just to work on this. So that's it for using third-party stories. Let me know of any questions.